Well, welcome. Happy September, everybody. Happy Change Agent Day. It is so gorgeous, and the weather has been gorgeous. So, the first thing that we're going to do is just go over a few of the team's housekeeping things. And so, most everybody is pretty familiar with Teams by now, but it's always important to go over how to work Teams. This is a virtual meeting, and we're using Microsoft Teams. So, um, if you haven't ever used it before, there's a couple different things to do. If you move your mouse just a little bit, a toolbar will come up, and usually it comes up right over your face. We're asking people to turn off their cameras and turn off their microphone. And so that little toolbar that comes up, you'll see a little microphone looking thing, and you'll also see a little camera looking thing. If you push it, then what's going to or push over, hover over it and then push it, you'll see a slash go through it. And that just means your camera and your microphone is off. And since we have so many presenters today, it's important for everybody to have their cameras and their microphones off so we can keep all the presenters straight, because there are quite a few today. And then if you go all the way to the end of that toolbar, what you're going to see is a little comment bubble. And that looks like just almost like a cartoon comment bubble. If you put a little, push that, hover over it and push it, on the right side of your screen, what's going to come up, what's going to pop up is a whole column where you can use to read the comments that are being shared during the meeting, and also to share a comment during the meeting. So that is your whole comment section. And just so you know, speakers, I will also be manning that comment section. We have Gary here today and also Jackie here today that will help me man that comment section. So if by chance you miss something, of course, then I'll reach out and make sure that we don't miss anybody's comments or questions. So I just wanted to say welcome once again. My name is Amy Mabius. I am the best practice coordinator at CARS. I have been the MC3 coordinator for over 10 years now, which I love it. It's one of my favorite things that I do. And I just wanted to mention that, we have been doing this for a long time, and we'll get into that a little bit later about why today's meeting is the theme of the meeting. So I'm going to put a pin in that for just a minute, because one of the subcommittees here at MC3 has already, wait for it, has been talking about another curbside jingle. We had jingle in July on July 28th, and it was successful. We had about 150 people come. They got a t-shirt, an MC3 t-shirt. They got snacks. They got a swag bag of all different information and trinkets from different agencies. But here's the thing. What we found out is July 28th is super hot. And so it was difficult and it was challenging to be in a hot environment all day. And it was challenging for me to put my volunteers through that, or the jingle committee actually to put their volunteers through that. And so we decided, the Outreach and Retention Committee, who actually organizes those jingles, decided we need to really get a vote from our change agent meetings, from our change agents. Should we do this in the spring or should we do this in the fall? And when we say spring, we mean like April or May. And when we say fall, we mean September, October. And so we created a Menti Meter. And if you haven't ever used a Menti Meter before, I'm going to share my screen and pull it up. Okay, you should all see my screen. The way that a Menti Meter works, you're asked a question, right? The question is, would you rather have a curbside jingle in spring, April, May, or fall, September, October? And the way that you can vote is you go into www.menti.com. Do you see that on the top of the screen? I'll point to it with my little mouse here. Do you see this? www.menti.com. And then once you get in there, you want to plug this number in. Do you see this? 501-222-43. Somebody said fall. I got one vote already. So this is instant and everybody can watch the votes come up. So www.menti.com. The number again is 501-222-43. If you're just joining us right now, we're just doing a vote to see if we should have a curbside jingle next year, because we don't know if we'll be able to get into a big group again next year. We'll see. That is our preferred choice, obviously. But if we can't and we need to do another curbside, then what we're trying to do is get a vote to see when people would rather come together, fall, spring, or I do see I have one vote to just go ahead and wait it out until we can get into a bigger group like we usually do. Thank you for participating, everybody. I'm feeling like fall's winning. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. You can go ahead and continue to vote throughout the entire meeting. And if we have a break, which I don't know if we will, I will remind you of this too. So right now I'm just going to minimize this and then come back to you. But keep on voting. Okay, I'm back. So, and before we go on to talk a little bit about today's meeting, I also wanted to just mention about next month's meeting. This meeting is actually almost a prelude to that meeting. Next month, we were going to have a NIATech storyboard marketplace. And what that is there are many agencies throughout Milwaukee County that are working on quality improvement projects using the NIATech's process. And so right now, as of last Wednesday, I think we had like 22 projects that would like to share with you what they're doing in their agency, and they're doing these projects, and it's nice to see them because it's good to see what people are working on. How are they improving their agencies? And that's one of our gigs, right? That's one of our things that we work on here at MC3, continuous quality improvement. And so it will be a really good day. It's going to be an interesting day because we've never done anything like that before. So come along for the ride on that one. So that's next month in October. And then, of course, that constant contact will go out. But today, I wanted to talk a little bit about how today's topic was chosen. So, we've been doing this MC3 thing for over 10 years now. And so it's been a long time, and we cannot do it unless people feel passionate about MC3, about bringing MC3 into their agencies, about individually working MC3. And so, there are two agencies that are going to join us today and really talk about how they have integrated MC3 into their agencies, the 9 great values, and how they feel passionate about co-occurring integrated system of care. And so that's exciting. And, so I specifically asked Pam to do this months ago because from the beginning, Pam Fleiter, the executive director at, Alternatives and Psychological Consultation, has been here since day one. In fact, a secret, she's been here longer than me. So she was started on the foundation of MC3 and has really been one of our greatest cheerleaders throughout the entire time. We also have Jewish Family Services, John and Kevin, which will be presenting for us later in the presentation. So the two presentations, the two agencies we have sharing today are the Alternatives in Psychological Consultation and also Jewish Family Services. And I'm just so excited, and I want and have a lot of gratitude for the people that are presenting today, because There are a lot of presenters that are here today, and I just want to make sure that they take the time to really introduce themselves because a lot of work and effort went into today's presentation. So thank you again, and everybody enjoy, and we'll see you on the other side.
Thank you very much, Amy. Thank you for the great introduction. And I'm Pam Fleiter. I'm the Executive Director of Alternatives in Psychological Consultation. And I am an MC3 change agent, as Amy has said. I have worked at APC since 1997. At that time, there were 3 of us. And now there are 155 change agents. And I have brought with me today 4 of our change agents that have been instrumental in changes throughout the years, but all of our change agents, and you included, as change agents out in our community, and whatever agency you're at, in whatever capacity, you're important to us. You're important to me. And so I welcome you. As Amy said, I have been asked to share why I'm so passionate about MC3 and a little bit about my story. But before I get into my story about what brings me into MC3, I kind of like to know who we have out there. And a little bit, if you can put in the chat, how many years have you been an MC3 change agent? This might be your first time, you know, and how many ever times you've been here. I can't even count the amount of times I've come to a change agent meeting. In the chat, please let us know how long you've been a change agent and why you're passionate about being an MC3 change agent. What value maybe really stands out to you? So I know Amy described the chat button to you. Okay, we've got 2.5 years. That's Alicia. Welcoming stands out to Alicia. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you for being a change agent. Oh, we have a first timer. Welcome. 12 years. That would be Sandy. Oh my goodness, now they're starting to come in. People are starting to chat me up here. 7 years. 7 years. Julianne. Recovery is the value she comes to mind for her. Another one, first time here. Ooh, we've got several first timers. We've got a 2-year, 9 years. Since the beginning, whenever that was, which we'll go over in a minute. We have someone from BroadStep, 9 months, from CSP. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Mary Neumauer, yay. Welcome. Welcome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to kind of move to our presentation today and do a little bit of an overview of that presentation. And the person who is womaning our slides today is Karen Drexler. She's my deputy director. And this is a story about APC's MC3 journey and my journey as well, a little bit of my story. As Amy told you, she asked me back in March if I would present kind of my story of how I implement MC3 values at APC. And I can't really start telling you about that until I tell you a little bit about myself and why these values kind of pivotal moments in my life. And again, I'm not going to go through every year of my past 7 years in that, so no worries there. But I thought I would share with you today. This is our kind of a little bit of a quickies about what we're going to be presenting today. So what brings us all here is change agents. We kind of did that. A little bit about my personal history, my MC3 and the MC3 history that I helped to develop since 2009. Some of those documents. APC's MC3 development, kind of along that same timeline in terms of the things that we did to implement change within APC. Then we're going to move on to Mary Mafta and JJ Bell, who are two of our very excellent, all of our change agents are excellent. All of everybody at the table that's come into the life of the change agent is awesome. But Mary and JJ have taken MC3 and NIATEX projects to a whole different level. So I want you to hear their story and kind of stories that brought them into their involvement, what they've learned, how they've changed, how they've helped us grow. And so they're going to be talking about some of their projects. And then Mary will also share a little bit about her personal story and what brings her here. Next, we're going to hear from kind of our more recent MC3 change, and that's our academic partnership. And we have Karen Drexler, who's the Deputy Director, and Annette Toddler, who's one of our therapists right now and a former intern. I'm going to talk to you about their experience. Karen will talk to you about her unconvention experience out in California. So we can't wait to hear about that and some of the fun things that APC did to educate and involve our community. And then kind of the development of our academic partnership here at MC3. And Annette will tell her internship story. So here we go. This is a slide of me at 3 years old. It's probably the only time I have ever had straight hair. And I think part of, again, the MC3 story and change begins within each of us. And we each have a different story. We each have a different reason that brings us here and keeps us going. So there's me, and then there's me as a change agent, MC3 change agent with Dr. Minkoff and Dr. Klein. When Amy asked me to present, I did have to do quite a bit of self-reflection in terms of what really, what are the events in my life that have precipitated me becoming a leader and a change agent with MC3. So not yet, Karen. I'm not into nursing yet. I'm still little Pam. Okay, there I am. So I was born in Chicago, so I'm not originally from Milwaukee area, but I had the privilege of growing up in Fox River Grove, Illinois. And that is a suburb outside of Chicago. And I grew up on the Fox River. I'm the oldest of 6 children. And I would think my sisters and brother would agree with me that growing up as the oldest, I had a certain amount of privilege and a certain amount of authority and a certain amount and a lot of responsibility. So with that privilege and authority came responsibility. I had to be a role model for my brothers and sisters. And I think that quality and that characteristic has stayed with me and is some of the reason I take a very active and leadership and responsible role within the MC3 community and within the healthcare community. So I grew up in Fox River Grove, Illinois, on the Fox River. Another huge component of my life in growing up on the river is nature. Back in the day, back in the 50s, which is telling you how old I am, back in the 50s, we didn't have air conditioning, okay? So we spent a lot of time in the river. We spent a lot of time outside in the breeze, under the trees. And so I have a real love of nature. I usually go out every single day, rain or snow, sun. Yes, it has been beautiful weather, but you know, there's snow coming, winter's coming. But I try and go outside every day and learn and look at the changes around me. I don't know if anybody was up at 7:56 this morning outside walking. I was. The moon was actually going down, and it was large, and it was beautiful. It was, you know, a lot of times we see the moon coming up. So those are kind of the changes that I have always appreciated and grown up to be a part of my life. In 1978, this is another kind of pivotal moment for me. I entered nursing school. And so here's one of my first, I would say, formal education in systems. That is not me on the left-hand side. My uniform was blue, and I had kind of a flying nun type of a nursing hat. So in those days, back in the 70s, we did need to wear white stockings, a uniform, and a hat, have short nails, short hair. So it was a little bit more regimented. But one of the things, one of the lessons I think that I carry with me even today from my nursing school and being a nurse is the lessons I learned in anatomy and physiology about our own bodies, about the amazing internal systems that we have within each one of our bodies. And regardless of how you feel about your own anatomy, those systems are always at work. They're always communicating. Even when you're sleeping, unconsciously, they are protecting you. And so give yourself a big hug. Give your body a hug. Say thank you. Say thank you, integrated system. You're with me while I sleep all day long without me even having to ask you. It's automatic, and we are so lucky for that. So as part of my nursing career, as a nurse in nursing school, you learn how to do a head-to-toe assessment, an assessment of those systems. And so I believe that, and we learn a model of assessment, plan, treat, evaluate. And so those concepts have really become a part of my life. And I do believe we learn those concepts in MC3. Those concepts are reinforced in MC3. So after nursing school, I worked at Forest Hospital for 14 years. I have my undergraduate degree as well, a bachelor's degree in health administration. I have my master's degree in counseling psychology with an emphasis on family and community counseling. So I graduated with that master's degree in 1985. And in 1986, I moved to Milwaukee area. And when I first got up here, I decided I'm not going to go back into an institutional setting. I had been at Forest Hospital in Des Plaines for 14 years, working with inpatient adolescents, primarily conduct disorder youth, and who also then turned out to be depressed youth, who also turned some to be have some psychotic episode youth as well. But I decided when I moved to Milwaukee, I would go out in the community. I would learn about Milwaukee. I would immerse myself in the neighborhood to really learn the culture. And it is a different culture. The culture in Milwaukee is different than the culture down in Chicago. I remember calling my mom saying, and I was crying, and I said, it is really different. And my mom goes, Pamela Ann, how different could it be? It's only 90 miles from Chicago. And I'm just like, no, it is. People up here talk in letters like WCS, like MHA, like NAMI. I don't know what any of that means. It's a different language to me. There's no traffic hardly up here. I mean, I don't get to sit in my car and listen to the radio and debrief. So I didn't have any of my coping strategies that I usually utilize. And then I said, and the worst thing about it is people are so nice up here. And my mom was, oh, that's terrible. And I said, no, you don't understand. They're so nice. I feel like I'm the worst person. I feel like I don't listen to people. I feel like I'm not the nicest one. I'm lacking skills in that area. So I learned to become welcoming. I hope. I still probably have a ways to go. But it was that warm welcome, that friendliness, that provided me with comfort, with safety, with the ability to change. So in my heart, I carry that experience of how powerful just that one value is. And fun, Karen will tell you about some of the fun, and you'll notice we all have on our t-shirts. We spent Friday afternoon putting foot marks on the back of our t-shirt, how important fun is in terms of stress management, health, wellness, again, comfort and safety. So I did have an event in 1999 that brought me into another model of wellness and care. And I had injured my right knee. I tore my medial ligament, and I was trying, like the good nurse that I am, to try and avoid surgery. So one of my colleagues said, why don't you try, you've tried physical therapy, you've tried medication, you've tried chiropractic, why don't you try Tai Chi? Well, in 2001, I began learning Tai Chi. And I have continued learning Tai Chi ever since. I fell in love with it. It it promotes many of my values in terms of my appreciation of movement, meditation. Tai Chi is based on a Taoist and Buddhist philosophy. And I tend to favor the Taoist way, and the Tao is the way, which one of the oldest recorded spiritual books or philosophical books in history is the I Ching, the Book of Change. And it's estimated that was written in 1000 BC. So that even 3,000 years ago, people were looking at change. Taoism really is based on nature, the study of nature, the natural way of things, and the belief that if we, as part of the natural universe, can tune into certain energies and be compatible. There are three virtues, three values, three treasures, they're called, in the Taoist way. And those include compassion, frugality, and humility. And those values set me on an MC3 path. So now the stage is set. I've got some of these values, assessment skills. And in 2009, what happened was Jen Whitwer came to an alternative steering committee meeting, and she told us that Dr. Minkoff and Dr. Klein were going to come and help our system of care be better able to meet the needs of the people that we serve. You have, I guess, going back a little bit in history, when I moved up to Milwaukee and did home care, there were not a lot of levels of care. There was hospitalization, there was outpatient, there wasn't any targeted case management yet, there wasn't any community support services, there certainly wasn't any CCS or comprehensive community care services. So there was emergency room care, and of course there was also, the criminal justice system where certain people were receiving care as well. So I thought, as Jen was talking to us, I'm like, this is, we really need this. We need to, this is something I have always wanted. I want us to be integrated, just like the systems of our body. I want it to be, unconscious. I want us to speak the same language. I want us to be able to communicate. And so I joined on, and that's kind of where my passion has been, trying to help Milwaukee County integrate the growing numbers of systems of care, even just helping to integrate the adult system and the youth system, the substance abuse system, and the mental health system. So this is kind of a little bit of the MC3 timeline. Our first steering committee meeting was in 2010. Our steering committee is composed of community leaders, people with lived experience, people in a lot of different areas in our community where care is provided or where care is needed. Our committee meetings, as well as our change agent meetings, used to be held at different community agencies. So this in itself, it has been a change. Our, our change agent meetings used to be held at, sometimes we were at Goodwill, sometimes we were at Grand Avenue Club, sometimes we were at the Radisson, sometimes, so we were kind of a traveling change agent show throughout the community. And now today, we are here at my office. Or at your office, or in your home, or in your car, wherever you might be. So obviously things have changed quite a bit through the years. However, some of the important things, important developments throughout the years have been certain policies and documents that MC3 steering committee has provided. And originally, we were the Comprehensive Continuous Integrated System of Care, CCISC. Again, those letters that I, sometimes can trip you up. This was kind of the format that Dr. Minkoff and Klein brought to us in 2009. And with our goal that every program in BHD and adult community branches would be integrated and would provide. What is that cat doing there? That's Orange Ruffy. So each program, any system or agency or place in the city or the county, wherever a person needed care, they would get the same quality of care based on the MC3 principles. And that's why we learned these principles. That's why we practice these principles today. So we all, no matter if I need care at Rogers Hospital or at Milwaukee County or, at my agency or at Broad Step, wherever I go, I will be welcomed. That care will be person-centered. It will be trauma-informed, co-occurring, culturally competent, recovery-oriented, stage-matched, all those MC3 values that we practice. In order to launch us or keep us, again, this is kind of the mission document that we came up with in 2009, 2010, that it was instrumental in kind of like a plan of care for our community and our systems. And our goal, our vision was to create an environment where people seeking help for co-occurring issues could engage in partnerships with providers that are grounded in the principles of recovery and also all the other MC3 values. So that was kind of our global vision. And as one of our steering committee members, Beth Rathen, used to say, we want to give people help that is helpful. And so we worked, we've been working from that document over the last 11 years. And interestingly enough, we called it a long-term goal. I guess we saw 5 years as long-term. Well, obviously we're 11 years in, so we're a little bit longer than that. But one of those long-term goals that you will hear Karen and Annette talk about is the goal to not just disseminate the MC3 values in the mental health or substance abuse system, but to get into private hospitals, to have private hospitals and treatment providers learn our language, learn our values, to incorporate people in higher education in terms of workforce development. So don't wait until we hire somebody to teach those values, but let's get into that. Let's get into different systems. Let's get into, I mean, people have proposed, some of my change agents have proposed, let's get into the grade schools and talk about this so that children that may be experiencing some trauma, some mental health issues, that they can be accepted, that they can be welcomed. So we have a lot of work that's still ahead of us on our long-term goals. Obviously, it's going to take us a little bit longer than 5 years, but I am confident with all the change agents that we are bringing to the table at this point. Also, as I kind of making this commitment has been easy for me, but we wanted to organize a charter where people that were signing on, agencies and individuals that were signing on would make a commitment to certain activities. And so we give a little bit of we had a signing ceremony, you know, of this charter that took place in 2013, 2014, I believe. So it first started in 2011, and then we updated it in 2013. We actually had a signing ceremony at one of our change agent meetings where agency directors would come up and they would actually sign this charter. And I take this very seriously, obviously, in terms of my commitment, my agency's commitment, my commitment as a change agent to continually assess and plan for and make changes, quality changes, and improvements within our organization and within myself. One of the ways that we make these changes is the Compass Easy. Alternatives learned how to administer the Compass Easy, which is an assessment tool on our agency in 2011. And it took us 4 months to do our Compass Easy, but it doesn't have to. It can actually be easy. But we did the Compass Easy on each department, and we got scores. And from those scores and from the areas on the Compass Easy, in terms of the policies that we have, in terms of our welcoming, in terms of the treatment we provide, in terms of our brochures, you know, we were able to make some changes, kind of like the low-hanging fruit types of changes. We changed our decor. We got some nice pictures. We changed the signage on our bathroom to be more inclusive. So we made a lot of changes, and then we also, during 2011 and 2012, started engaging in even more in-depth changes. Amy mentioned that, you know, NIATEX is one way you can make those changes, and you can measure those changes. You can decide on goals. So as you can see, we began the latter part of 2011, after we did our Compass Easy, on starting to identify change projects that we wanted to do. We went to a change academy. We learned how to do NIATEX change projects. And as you can see from the department list, all of our departments got and have been involved in NIATEX projects. And you can see we've probably done close to 20 NIATEX projects. And some of them have worked out a lot better than others. We have two change agents, Mary and JJ, who are going to share a couple of the things that motivated them about MC3. And part of that are these NIATEX projects and taking a leadership role in these NIATEX projects within the agency. So in 2000, well, I'll share with you some of our 2017 agency goals. We did make some actual policy changes within the organization. We set a standard for 100% of our employees attending at least one change agent meeting. This is part of our continuing education. This is part of our onboarding. I'm hoping that maybe some of our new employees are here today. We set a goal of 100% of our staff attending suicide prevention training. That's very important to us in terms of being proactive for recovery. All departments are to complete a Compass Easy and submit change agents throughout the years. Now, we don't do it every year with each department, but on a rotating basis, we do a continual assessment. All departments shall complete a NIATEX project and presentation. As you saw from our list of projects, we instituted that. APC shall provide a skill building event. One of my favorite events was we tried to, as Amy shared, we always kind of have a theme for the change agent meetings. And so we try and have a theme also at APC. And so we really, the year of our cultural intelligence immersion, which we're still really working on in terms of our diversity, inclusion, and equity committee, was an event, different cultural events throughout the year within our own agency. And we did have one event where we were honoring the Hmong culture and learned more about the Hmong culture, and we made some egg rolls all together, and we did a wedding dance all together, and just shared among families, came and shared, with us that culture. So we try and coincide some of our changes with the larger MC3 change agent meetings. In terms of agency changes that we have made, part of our performance evaluations include the supervisor evaluating the employee's knowledge and demonstration of MC3 principles. So we try and keep on working. We want to acknowledge employee progress, because employee progress is our progress as an agency. Like I said before, we cannot do this on our own. I cannot do this on our own. So it takes all of us to constantly be working on values. We ask on our job application and on our intern application, are you an MC3 change agent? And so when we get those applications, we give priority to MC3 change agents. So it goes from we try and institute MC3 principles from before a person is hired, and also in terms of a departmental level within the strategic plan. So if you notice the outpatient strategic plan that is currently in progress, one of their goals is to improve staff knowledge and implementation of MC3 values with an emphasis on co-occurring issues, serving youth and families, and being more culturally knowledgeable. So that's something they are currently working on as a department as well. So kind of bringing it, as you see, full circle. This is one of the most important slides I think that I have. MC3 values, I try to practice them every single day. I try to practice particularly welcoming because it has had such an impact on my life. When I go to the grocery store, I try and, I try and talk with people to make sure they feel welcome, make sure that they know I am present for them. I know we just did an onboarding yesterday of a new employee, and I got feedback that she commented that she felt so welcomed, and that meant so much to me. And so I guess that's the challenge for all of you as change agents. Can you practice this every day? Do you practice this every day? To me, it's part of my Tai Chi practice as well, part of me practicing the 3 treasures of being compassionate, which is definitely person-centered, trauma-informed, practicing humility, being open to hearing the stories of others, and feeling like every time I gain some knowledge, I want to know more, and I want to always keep myself open to change, to more knowledge. Kind of like the more you know, the more you know what you don't know. And so just that constant change. So with that being said, 2 people that I'm going to turn it over to Mary Mafta, and she'll tell you a little bit about herself and how she is implementing our MC3 values on an agency level. And thank you all for listening to my story.
Thank you, Pam. Hello, everyone. My name is Mary Mafta, and thank you for attending today and being here. I have been at Alternatives for 12 years now, and well, it'll be 12 years in November, but I've been here for a really long time, and from the beginning of MC3 and seeing the evolution that has taken place with the MC3 mission and philosophy is, yeah, they're all thanking you in the chat, Pam, just in case you don't see it there, has been so impactful for me because I always say I don't know how I ended up in the mental health field. It was never my goal, essentially starting out, but I'll talk a little bit more about that in my personal story. But my current role here is I'm a supervisor for the IRSS department, which stands for Integrated Recovery Support Services. And that has been a recent change that has also came from being involved with MC3 and trying to act out and embody, what it means by putting it in our language, putting it in our policies, putting it in our terminology on a regular basis. And so again, I've been an MC3 change agent since the beginning, 2009. And I was first when I first heard Dr. Kinkoff and Dr. Klein, I thought, wow, this is a whole new perception, a whole new way to look at services. I remember them saying something as for being person-centered and recovery-orientated, it's okay if this person was using, 5 times a week, 5 to 7 times a week, and now they're only using twice, like that, we still clap that up, regardless of the regulations that may be surrounding them, some of the court stipulations that may be mandated for them. Those small goals, starting small and being able to recognize progress, even if it's not at the level that we may want that person to be at, we still have to recognize that it's their journey, their story. They have to be ready to make the change with the supports around them. But there's also ways with using the MC3 values and the philosophy and the definitions that stand behind those to help guide people in the direction that is the most healthiest for them, and maybe some of the other stipulations that they need to commit to and get done. So when I was first getting into it, I thought, wow, this really is a lot of times when I first started getting into the field, I heard a lot of people use the quote, be the change you want to see, or be the change you want to be. And so when MC3 came around, I started to think this is really how you become the change that you want to be. I felt like a lot of people who said that, even myself, at times we would feel a little bit lost, maybe a little bit helpless with trying to figure out how to assist a certain somebody with, certain issues. And so setting it up with those values in mind literally help us be the change that we want to see, not only in ourselves and our communities, but in the people that we serve. It keeps me grounded and rooted to why I want to continue to work with community members. Every time I attend a change agent meeting, I feel that much more rejuvenated. I feel that much more empowered, that much more capable, that much more equipped to deal with a lot of the stressors, and being able to recognize also the the improvements that people have made and some of their successes that need to be also recognized. So attending MC3 meetings really helped me keep my eye on the ball and why I do what I do, because it can be very draining, and especially when you feel like you're spinning your wheels or things aren't going as planned, or maybe the person that you're working with isn't, aligned with some of the things that need to take place in order for them to be in a better situation. But when you attend these MC3 meetings and you're keeping the MC3 values in mind all along the way, it kind of takes that personal responsibility, as far as sometimes we can get too involved with what's going on with some of the people that we serve, because we have, I think a lot of the people that work in this field wear their hearts on their sleeves. They're very caring, giving, open people that truly want to help someone else. And sometimes that can be a little bit damaging to the person who is always giving and not really getting, that back to them. So MC3 gives that back to you. And it helps you stay focused on, what your role is, how you can actually help folks, and it keeps us connected as a city, initiative, so that when we're sitting at different tables at MC3, I've learned so much by just sitting at the tables at MC3 about all the different services and agencies that exist, and it really fills in the gaps where sometimes we just don't know what to do. Go to MC3 change agent meeting, and most likely some of the answers will come. And so earlier on, I don't know what exactly year it was, but I attended something called the Change Agent Academy, where I think it was 4 to 5 days, where I had a bunch of people went and took, it was supposed to be just a training, but it turned into like a class and a certification. And so I learned so much at that academy. It was brought by, I think, University of Madison. And we did a lot with working with the NIATEX model, and that is the quality assurance model that Pam was mentioning before. After we would complete an easy compass on whatever department or agency as a whole, and we've gotten those low-hanging fruits taken care of, there would be some bigger coconuts that we needed to get from the top of the tree down. And with that, we would use a more targeted quality assurance model, and those are the NIATEX projects. And so through that Change Agent Academy, I was really able to learn the background, the basis, the whys, how things should go, and why it's important to have, you know, multiple representation on your NIATEX teams. What kind of projects should you be choosing? What is, you know, how to identify your goals also is a big part of that. And then being able to use the charter as it's intended to really assist with keeping your projects on course. And again, to have that diverse representation. So it's not just, you know, head honchos making decisions. It's everybody, any employee and consumers, community members that can join the NIATEX teams when we're making changes. And their input is very important because, you know, we serve them. And so we don't want to be making changes that don't positively impact their lives. And so one of the first projects that I did, and let me get back here, apologize, was the You Got Mail. And so you can see the slide up here. We had a problem. We didn't have as much response from our employees as we would like as a whole to email. And so we were trying to improve communication with employees by increasing agency-wide responses to email communication with the goal of 80% of employees are responding within 24 hours. On the left side here, you can see, oh, I apologize, but there's just a list of members that were involved. And so we all get a title. So you always have to have what they call an executive director. And that is someone who is one of the head honchos that is able to give the other employees the time that they need to dedicate to this project and to make the changes, to send out whatever changes that we're working on, surveys, whatever it may be, completing the charter. So we do need that one person making sure at the top there to let us as employees be able to push through the charter and get some of the things done. So I was the change leader on here. Then we had a data advisor. We had somebody from a different department than me. We had someone who was our team communicator and took notes and filled out the charter for us as meetings went on. And then we also had a billing consultant on the team as well, because some of the reason why we wanted to increase this response was that, you know, we were waiting too long for replies, especially when it came to billing issues, and we don't want to miss, you know, billing windows, and we want to get things handled in a timely manner. You know, there's time deadlines on a lot of things that we work on. So if you can go to the next slide. So overall, this is how it went in summary. If you go back to the graph. And so our baseline was that 57, when we started the project, only 57% of employees were responding within 24 hours. I don't know if the charter is included in here, but then inside NIATEX projects, they have something called cycles. And with a cycle, you try one, maybe two changes, but really we try to stick to one change at a time because we want to see if that impacted it or not. And we want to be able to measure that. So if we have multiple changes going on, we really can identify which change was the most impactful. So the cycles run, you know, you can run them as long as you want. Usually our cycles are about 4 to 6 weeks at a time. And then we meet about it and we say, hey, did that work? Okay. And we decide, another thing that you do is you decide if you're going to adapt, adopt, or abandon some of the changes that you do. And I'll reiterate what that means if you were to do any of those in a minute. But the first cycle that we did was that we created mobile email access. So we started having people put their email account for their job on their phone or whatever device that they were, using consistently throughout. Because a lot of our employees were, they're community service providers, so they don't always work a lot of time in the office. They're in the community servicing members, which is understandable. They can't always get to their computer to check their emails as much. So what we wanted to do was get people's emails on their phones with responses. So we went from 57 to 60%. So that made a little bit of an impact. And then we said, well, that's really not to our goal. So we're going to keep going. We're going to try another change. So in cycle 2, we started calling people and saying, what are your barriers to replying to emails in a timely manner? No judgment. We just need to know so that we can, find solutions. And so at that time, a lot of people just recognized that, hey, I need to get it on my phone, or my Gmail is my default email, so I'm not getting the emails from APC notifications. So trying to figure out the little, intrinsical things that we couldn't identify by just the cycle change that we did. So then once we did all of that, and we started working with people one-on-one, what are your individual barriers? We did reach our goal to 80%. And now, because we've adapted that we want, a timely response, we've adapted into our policies by having it in written language that it's a policy that employees need to reply within 48 hours. So we made a compromise, right? So, and for now, most people can. So yeah, that was that project. This brought awareness to staff on the importance of email communication. More staff have easy access to the APC email via phone, mobile device. Establish a realistic requirement that email should be checked within 48 hours, not 24 hours. Identified through data that employees working less than 20 hours per week are much less likely to respond to email communication than a full-time employee. So you learn all different things while you're doing these change cycles, and that's the fun of it as well. So that's the NITAX project I was on. And real quick, before I give it over to JJ, just a little bit more about why I stay connected with MC3. So my family history is that both my mother and my brother have severe mental health issues. My brother had a very traumatic event happen at a young age, even at a teenage age, and he was doing really well. He was doing really well, and he had got a scholarship to Sports Illustrated right out of high school, and then a traumatic event happened for him, and he then came back not really knowing. He came back from a trip from Chicago, not really knowing who he was, where he was, that type of thing. And then he became institutionalized into the mental health system. And this was back in the 80s and early 90s. And during that time, I had a very traumatic experience myself witnessing my brother. We would go up there every day, and my brother's a big guy, so a lot of people would take his size and be intimidated by his size, and so they always took extra measures. And so there were times where I would go up to what is now BHD, and those used to be patient rooms, and though he would be treated so poorly that I just couldn't understand why he was even in this place as a young child. I seen him strapped down, shot up with things, institutionalized to where he was there for years and years and didn't need to be there for that long. And so moving on, my mother got, diagnosed in her late 50s. So there was a lot of undiagnosed issues throughout my life when it came to my mother and her symptoms of mental health. But so like I was saying before, I never thought that I would find myself in the mental health field because I despised it based off of the experience that I had as a child and visiting my brother on a daily basis in an institutionalized setting. And once I came to APC, and pretty soon after that, MC3 was a part of my daily work here, and I started to realize that um, things things do need to change, and I can be a part of that change, and that if I can, take a role of leadership, be involved as much as possible to help bring systems together and to break down the silos between aorta and mental health and physical health, so that people are seen as a whole person, and that when they're going to seek services and they're going into different systems, they're not re-traumatized by the people that they encounter, and that everyone has this background. If you come into contact with someone in the systems that we all do, that they would be treated with the MC3 philosophies and values in mind. And I have seen so much change over the time that I have been an MC3 change agent, and I have seen the silos break down. I have seen the stigma. I have seen the stigma decrease. I have seen access increase. I have seen supports for families and other members that are affected by some of the mental health issues, um, be there for people. And so I just want to say before I pass it over is that if you're not already involved as much as you'd like, please, dive in if this is something that resonates with you. If you have people in your personal life that you felt like, you know, it shouldn't have went that way, and they're supposed to be receiving help. MC3 is a great way for you to be literally a part of the change that you want to see in systems in your community, and the way that services are rendered, and how we treat people. So thank you so much. And JJ, I'm gonna pass it over to you.
Hey guys, I'm JJ Bell. I also go by Jeremiah. I am a AODA targeted case manager and intern supervisor with the TCM department. Just to kind of give you a brief background about myself, I happen to be someone who was born biologically with a biological predisposition for alcoholism and drug addiction. I had a difficult time growing up with school, and got into a lot of fights and got picked on a lot. And I ended up turning to drugs and alcohol when I was about 11 years old. My parents tried really hard to help me, and they saw what was happening. And I started therapy when I was about 14 years old. I continued to get in trouble and hanging out with the wrong crowd. As I continued through school, I was had an opportunity to continue on in college, and at that time I kind of separated myself from a lot of those people that I had grown up with, and I kind of worked on myself and cleaned up kind of my act, but I still continued to drink, and throughout that time in college I saw a lot of the people that I grew up with die from drug overdoses or alcoholism, and I really wanted to be able to help the individuals, get their lives back and get sober and really, have a better quality of life. And so originally when I went to school, I actually was enrolled in the pre-seminary program to become a pastor at Concordia University. And throughout my first year there, I felt a greater calling to work with individuals on a more one-to-one basis, and I was drawn to the social work department. So I switched majors and I went into social work, and I really started to thrive in school then, and I found something that I was very passionate about, and my heart was really into what I was doing. Unfortunately, I continued to drink as a coping mechanism to deal with stress. I worked a lot and continued to, in my studies and progress in what I was doing. After graduation, I got hired on as a case manager at community care for the elderly, and I was working with frail elderly, and came to see kind of a lifelong history of people, and having grown up in a home with my grandparents, for me it was just kind of a natural progression in order to work with this population. But it became stressful for me because I was continuously witnessing death and dying, and I really needed a change. And I was really stressed out, and I was drinking a lot, and to the point where my doctor had told me that he was going to put me on blood pressure medications at the age of 23. And so I decided to kind of go back into what I had gotten into as younger, as cooking, and got back into the service industry, and still felt a passion to work with people. I worked with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs for 2 years as a veteran service representative. And I still felt at night I'd come home like I was being a disservice to people, because I was seeing all these people that needed this additional assistance, and I was like very structured regimen, and I could only help people so much. Now throughout that time, I also dabbled in real estate. I owned a bunch of rental properties, and I saw that some of my friends who were in recovery were getting into sober living homes, and I really wanted to be able to, as being a real estate owner, start up one of those places and to be able to help people get sober. And I just wasn't able to find the right channels to kind of get that going. So after I left the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs and turned back into cooking again, my drinking just got way worse. I fell into a deep depression for about 2 years, and my alcoholism was so bad that I was throwing up blood every night and blacking out. And I had a friend of mine approach me that I grew up with, and he was a heroin addict, and he had gotten into recovery and gotten into 12-step program. And he looked at me one day and he said, "Hey, you've done all these things, and you're basically a functioning alcoholic, but just because you're the best of the worst doesn't mean that you still don't have a problem." So shortly after that, I attended my first AA meeting, and I finally got sober on January 23rd, 2012. I was attending AA meetings daily, and met some great supports. And one of the individuals that I had met had just finished their undergrad in social work, and she got hired at this place called Alternatives and Psychological Consultation. And she started telling me how great of a job it was. And just all these things came back to me about my time previously being a case manager, and I was kind of telling her about some things and how to help her kind of manage the job that she was doing, and it really interested me. So she told me, she's like, "Hey, there's an opening, you should apply." So I went ahead and did so, and at that time I was 9 months sober. So I ended up getting hired at APC. Next thing you know, we're going through all this stuff, and I was being turned into this thing about NITEX, and being somebody who wanted to be a part of a change and help people. Naturally, I gravitated towards it and got into it. So the change project that I really jumped into is called What's Up, Doc? And what it was is that we were finding out that there was barriers to people that were not seeing their primary care providers in getting their wellness visits or physical. So in 2013, we took a baseline that 68% of our clients had seen their primary care provider at least once a year for physical. We set a goal at the end of 2014 that 75% of our clients would be seen for a wellness visit. We were able to accomplish this goal with bringing on 2 of our clients that we served, and come to find out that there were these barriers and a stigma associated with people going to see the doctor. So through their assistance, we were able to come up with a primary care pamphlet of preferred providers that we drew all this information from our clients that we were serving. That was part of the change that we made. And then we started handing out this pamphlet when encouraging people to go and see their providers. So what happened is that by 2015, we had met our goal, but not only had we met our goal, but we surpassed our goal. And 81% of our 206 clients that we were serving had seen their primary care provider for a wellness visit or an annual physical. And, that was a great tool that we actually extended out to the whole agency, and we're able to use that as a tool to improve people's overall wellness. Now, what was interesting is when we did our 5x5 storyboard on this, there was some data that came out through another provider. BHD had done their 5x5, and what they were looking at is the cause of death for individuals that we were servicing out in the community. And it came to show that 56% of the individuals that we're serving died of natural causes. So this gave us validation that what we were doing and encouraging people to see their primary care providers to enhance their personal wellness was actually helping, in hopes of prolonging their life, given that this is a major cause of death for individuals that we're serving, and hoping, prolonging people's life. There's so many other things that I could talk about and the impact that all this has had. And we're now working on a new project called Buds of MC3, which came as an offshoot of a previous one that we did of MC3. But what we're doing is we're looking at expanding the knowledge base of staff to be able to identify the demonstration of the values in the workplace. And so our hope with this is that we can carry this forward not only into our agency, but also through to, as Pam was talking about before, is the larger goals is extending it into the community as a whole. So part of what I'm doing and part of being on the MC3 steering committee is I'm a part of the academic partnership committee, and I do supervise an intern, and our hope is to get that into the universities and start getting them to adapt these values. And to me, that was just kind of a no-brainer because it's so much related to the NASW Code of Ethics. So I'll keep my time abbreviated and short here. And coming up next is Karen Drexler. She's been a great mentor and leader throughout my time at APC. She's been an integral part of the What's Up Doc project and other projects that we've worked on, as well as this current one that we're working on. So here to share more about her experience is Karen Drexler.
Hello. Thanks, AJ. That was very nice of you to say, and great presentation. I'm, as he mentioned, I'm the Deputy Director of Alternatives in Psychological Consultation, and I've been with APC for 19 years, over 19 years. I can't believe it. I'm going to talk pretty fast just because I know we are a little low on time, because the last speaker we have is Annette Toddler, who's going to talk more about her experience as an intern, a former intern, and she's a current therapist. And she was one of our first MC3 interns with the new process. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But I also am going to talk a little bit about the unconvention experience. Some of you may have heard about this that occurred in 2011. A few of the fun things that APC has done over the years to try to educate and involve staff in a fun way about the MC3 values, because at first glance you're like, oh gosh, these are boring. What is all this stuff? How do you engage folks and get them excited about it? As you can see from JJ and Mary, people who are on the front line, they're excited about it. They want to learn more, and this is, I think, part of how they got so excited about it. So the unconvention occurred. What it is everyone hears of conventions, and so it was an unconvention because they didn't want it to be conventional, like a boring old presentation and let's all have breakout sessions and stuff. Yes, we had those, but it was It took place in Pacific Grove, California, and I won one of the, we had an MC3 meeting and everyone put in a raffle ticket, and a certain number of people from different agencies won a chance to fly to California for this conference in October, and it was amazing. I was so happy to win it. Mary Newbar, as soon as I walked in the door, I said, I'm going to win it, and I certainly did. So she laughed on that. But I met a lot of wonderful people. But on the right-hand side, I just put this for fun for people who did attend. We try to, of course, make it fun because that's a good way to learn. And they did a wonderful song to MCC's clinical. So moving away from being so clinical about things to not clinical. So it's like it goes to, you know, that song by Let's Get Physical by Olivia Newton, whatever her name is, Olivia Newton-John or whatever. Let's not get clinical. So we would sing this throughout the whole unconvention. So I just thought I would include that in for people who do attend, like Amy and Mary. Brings back great memories. So, but just a few things. The unconvention was beautiful. It was in a beautiful place, a Zen place. So you can see we were able to walk around and have breakout groups outside so that we could talk freely. And these are people from all over the country and Canada, all over the place. So it was an amazing start to kind of get things going about what are these MC3 values and how do we integrate this into our agency. So I took this picture. It was just wonderful. But I just want to say a little thing. So this is the rooms we stayed at. It was just a beautiful environment. But our plane left really early in the morning, and we got there on a Sunday, and it was just in time for the Packers game, because anybody who's a Packers fan, you know, we got to watch our games. So I'm like looking around going, okay, let's get to the hotel room, turn on the TV and at least watch the game because we got to do that. Well, they had no TVs, they had no phones because it was the Zen place. So, you know, this beautiful place kind of as a retreat. So I quickly found some new friends who also were Packers fans, and we went to a restaurant and watched the game. So that was a good way to kind of get connected. So I just thought I'd include that because it was funny. So then, like I said, I just wanted to share a couple pictures because I made some really good friends from different agencies. I learned a lot about other agencies and where people were coming from with this. And I'll be honest with you, when I first started hearing about Milwaukee County doing this, you know, first we had some meetings in 2009, 2010. I'm like, okay, here's some more lip service. I really kind of thought, you know, I've been with, my background was like in business and marketing. And I just thought, I know this is lip service, strategic planning. You see all these good things, nothing happens. Boy, was I surprised and very, very happy to say that actually it wasn't just lip service. And I think the reason why, because everybody really understood what it means, and step by step made it work with all the processes, and especially the quality assurance stuff. And I am a quality assurance, let me go back to this, quality assurance kind of person. I worked for many, many years for the American Society for Quality. So I'm kind of strange that way for some people, that I love quality assurance. So half of my job I do is, you know, therapy and all that good stuff. And I love the compliance part of it, because without the compliance part, you can be as welcoming as possible. But if you don't have the stuff behind it to support it, you don't have anything. So that's why that foundation is really important. So I love NIATEX. I love policies. I hate to say that, but they're there for a reason, to help us be recovery oriented, to provide motivational interviewing, stage match, all the things that we like and are kind of easier for us, but we have to have the foundations. Okay, so how do we get the foundations? Some of the things we did with our folks to make things fun, even just starting on what are these MC3 values. We did little quizzes during team meetings and stuff, and help people learn about the different values. We did a Jeopardy, and actually someone in TCM, our TCM department, created this. It was so ingenious how they had it. You can choose different categories and say, okay, I choose welcoming, you know, and then you have, you know, the answer, and they just made it fun. And so people learn through this. So I would highly recommend, wherever you're at within your agency, especially if you're in the beginning, we'd be happy to share some of these things because they do work, and people say, okay, this isn't so dry, I get it. So with that, that's all I'm going to say on that. It was just a really good experience for me. Like I said, I didn't think that we were gonna, it was kind of like gonna be lip service. And I'm so, you know, again, I've been with APC for 18 years, and how many post start of MC3, it really works. And people, when you get committed, things change, and they change for the better. So one of the things that has changed, as Pam alluded to early on, when they had the 5-year plan of getting stuff involved with the higher education. And I am now part of the MC3 Academic Partnership Committee. And basically, to have our internships across all the MC3 agencies that provide internships, to have it with an MC3 focus, helping the interns learn the values right away, and really not just, you know, again, book learning, but what does this mean? We've created a shadowing tool to help people watch for these values. Is this person being person-centered, stage matched, etc.? Utilizing those, attending the change agent meetings, etc. And then afterwards, of course, a goal, as we know right now, there's a shortage of, it's difficult in hiring folks. And so we've had so much success with being able to have interns, teach them what we're looking for, and also vetting them too, to say, hey, are they committed? Is this something that they're meant to do? And we have found that it works. And we've hired on numerous interns, and they've all had wonderful experiences. Some that haven't stayed on, it's been for different reasons, like they moved out of state or something that they would have liked to have stayed, but couldn't. So there's, we have partnerships with other universities like UWM, Concordia, Alverno, and we're working, I won't share too much, we have a whole charter and strategic plan and stuff with that, to be able to eventually get this curriculum into their curriculum. The MC3 is part of training them there, instead of just saying, hey, you're going to learn it on at your internship, and, you know, we'll share that. But it's got to go both ways. So we're making a lot of headway, and it's an amazing group. And I'm sure, I know we've talked about it at MC3 before, and there's been some presentations. But one of the things, and I'll just briefly, part of the internship is they do a pre and post survey about Mc3 values to see how much they've learned, and we've gotten some great results with that. So this is kind of the stuff that we ask, like how confident now they are in certain things and so forth. So I'm not going to spend any more time. Like I said, I drink a lot of coffee all day long. Anybody who knows me, so this helps me talk quickly. So I'm going to turn it over to Annette, who was one of our interns, and now she's hired on as a therapist, and she's going to tell a little bit about her story. So take it away, Annette.
Thank you, Karen. Hello, everyone. I was an intern with APC, and now I'm a therapist. As you can tell from my accent, I'm not from Wisconsin. I moved from England back in the 90s. I'm now an American citizen, so I've lived here for about 30 years. How do I move to the next slide? Karen, do you want to? There we go. Yeah, so a little bit about me. I'm actually a little older. I turned 60 this year. This is a brand new career for me, so anything is possible. Before I came to APC, I was a college professor. I was actually a psychology professor at DePaul University in Chicago, and I published. I worked with doctoral students. I taught. I really enjoyed it. And it's always interesting when you have a change, you know, in your life. And mine actually came through a traumatic event. I was in a domestic violence situation, and I realized, you know, to put my safety first. So I ended up leaving Chicago and moving to Milwaukee. While I was here, when I moved to Wisconsin, I started to think back over my life and how I really enjoyed working, you know, with people who were disadvantaged. I'd worked with the unemployed in England, and I'd also volunteered with people with disabilities in Chicago. And somebody had actually whispered in my ear that they thought I would make a good therapist. So I did actually get a job as a part-time dissertation advisor when I moved to Wisconsin, but I kept feeling this call, and eventually I actually applied to the Masters in Social Work at UWM. and took the classes there. And then I started my internship at APC in my second year. And as soon as I arrived at APC, I knew it was a good fit. You know, when you get that gut instinct, people were so welcoming. I actually saw a lot of the Mc3 values live, you know, in just the welcoming. People were very kind and compassionate. I shadowed quite a few of the therapists while I was here, and I saw it in the work with the clients. And coming from a sort of scientific background, it was really refreshing as well to see how the scientific model had changed, and it had moved away from a what's wrong with you, a diagnosis of what's wrong with you, to a much more informed what happened to you. And I think it resonated with me because I'd actually experienced trauma, and, you know, I saw a lot of the things in clients. I had to deal with some secondary trauma myself, you know, just because I worked with clients very early on, and now I'm moving up to a full caseload, and it is getting easier. I think we're just sort of realizing that rather than avoid a lot of these issues, it's always good to recognize what you've been through and say, hey, what have I learned from this? How has this made me more informed? How can I live some of these Mc3 values? And in my final semester at UWM, Mike Weidman, who was my intern supervisor, he actually asked me to write a paper about the values of Mc3, and I actually included, you know, a few of the excerpts because there were two values that stuck out from me. This idea of trauma-informed care, you know, and looking and meeting the person where they're at, and actually recognizing that somebody has been through an event, and it does actually change how you think, feel, and behave. And I put in a comment here from Sandra Brown, which I think is important, you know, for agencies trying to implement trauma-specific clinical practices without first implementing trauma-informed organizational culture changes, like throwing seeds on dry land. And I'm an organizational psychologist, that's my PhD. And so, you know, and I see that at APC, how all the staff here, they embody a lot of these Mc3 practices. It's not just something that goes on between the therapist and the client. Karen? Yeah, and the second one, cultural intelligence. I think coming here as an immigrant and experiencing what it's like, you know, to be in a new culture and to think about how to assimilate yourself in a new culture, that really resonated with me. And also, I actually used to work for the Commission for Racial Equality in England, and seeing the growth of movement like Black Lives Matter. And we actually talk about these things in our meetings as well. And we've had some workshops just understanding, gaining that cultural competence. The process by which individuals and systems respond effectively and effectively to people of all cultures. I think that's really important. And I just included here a short measure of cultural intelligence, you know, so because you can actually measure this, you know, and seeing how people can change their knowledge, skills and attitudes through gaining training in cultural intelligence. And the final slide. Oh, here we go. Yeah, there's me. I try to practice what I preach. I'm actually running a marathon a week on Sunday, the Lakefront Marathon, just to celebrate turning 60. But I've actually found I've run, you know, after having a session with a client, I'll go in for a run and I'll always feel better after it. It just reminds me the importance of self-care. You know, so this is what I do. I run, I do yoga, I eat healthy, and there's Marsha, the cat. So these are some of the things. Thanks.
Thank you, Annette. And I think just I don't know if you want to say something, Pam, and then I'll put the slideshow on.
I just want to thank my presenters today, my change agents, Mary Mafta, JJ Bell, Karen Drexler, Annette Toddler. You guys are awesome. You made it. I always learn from you. I learn from all of my change agents. And I learned from all of you out there that are change agents. So we just wanted to show you a few more of our change agents and some of the fun that we have here at APC. And then we will turn it right over to Kevin and John, who I really want to hear from as well to get some more ideas.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, APC change agents. Thank you, Milwaukee change agents. And now I'd like to turn it over to JFS and Kevin and John, if you can kind of tell us, give us some suggestions from your agency.
Okay. All right. Okay, I'm going to first ask the silly question. Can everybody see me? Somebody nod something. Okay. And everyone can hear me. Okay, so in the interest of time, we have about 10 minutes left before we're done. Amy, is there any updates or anything we need to give before we're done?
We actually have we have like 40 minutes.
Oh, I was thinking we were done at 3. Okay.
3:30. You guys got plenty of time.
Okay. Okay. All right. So then the other question is, does anyone need a break, or are we okay to move forward? Because we've been sitting for a bit. Okay. I'll treat everyone the same way I do on my classes. I'm an adjunct at UW-Milwaukee in the School of Social Work in the graduate program, and silence means keep going. So that's what we'll do. So Jewish Family Services, let me share my screen here real quick. All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Jewish Family Services and then talk a little bit more about MC3 and some opportunities for you to get involved with us. So first off, my name is Kevin Boland. I'm the Director of Social Services here at Jewish Family Services. And I am a co-chair for our steering committee. Apologize that my co-chair John Yops, the CEO and president of JFS, had to be pulled away for a quick emergency. So my apologies. So he planned to be here with me. But here we are. So we really don't I'm going to preface a few comments here moving forward. One, now knowing I was thinking that we had less time than we do, but I'll preface some comments here about JFS, MC3, and more opportunities for you to get involved. JFS has been around for over 150 years. We have worked with everyone from Houdini to just about any Russian immigrant that has come to Milwaukee over the last 50 years or more, most likely received assistance from JFS, and that's something that we continue to do now. So we've been pretty involved in the community and with MC3 and NIATEX and being change agents. So let's take a quick look here. So founded in 1867, we're one of the oldest nonprofits around. We have an operating budget of about 6.7. Kind of a small to medium-sized agency. We have 80 employees, or I should say 80 change agents, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And we serve around 2,243 individuals. And the unique, or one of the nice things about Jewish Family Services, or JFS, is that you do not have to be Jewish to be served by JFS or to work at JFS. So we work with everyone across the Milwaukee community. Our mission ties into some of the MC3 values and always has. We want to provide supportive services that will strengthen families, children, and individuals throughout the life cycle within the context of their unique needs and traditions. To talk about how MC3 values are incorporated into everything that we do here at JFS, which really is an underlying theme, is that a staff person might not be talking with a client or with another staff about being welcoming. We just are. It's a fabric of what we do. And I would argue that if you're a change agent and you're at this meeting, or attend change agent meetings or been a part of the NIATEX projects, you're probably all of these MC3 values, even if you can't say stage matched recovery planning, that you're doing those things day in and day out as you work with your clients, your consumers, your families and kids, not unlike we do here at JFS. We have 3 core areas here at JFS within our mental health services, social services and case management, and safe and affordable housing, which we'll dive into here in just a moment. I'd like to touch on a little bit more here about these core programs before we dive into them and the MC3 values and change agents. When an agency takes on becoming a change agent and part of MC3, that's everyone. It's not just the social worker. It's not the clinician. It is everyone from the guy or girl who's emptying the trash cans to who meets you at the front lobby when you walk in, to our finance folks, to everybody else. Being an agency involved with MC3 means that we're all change agents, that we all have an understanding of what it means to be welcoming to someone, what service integration, system integration means, and having those regular conversations. So it's important to keep in mind that when we're talking about MC3 values, we're not only talking about how we treat our clients and consumers and kids and families and adults that we serve. It's about how we treat each other. So, and being comfortable with each other enough to say, well, you know, when we had this such and such interaction with each other, you seem to be a little off, and that affected me this way. Not unlike conversations that we might have with our consumers and clients. So I don't want to hang on that one but so long, but it is important to keep that one in mind. So in case you're wondering, within our mental health services, we do have individual, family, and child counseling, school-based counseling, grief counseling, psychiatric medication management, survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence, late life counseling, and friendly callers. We do a lot with 80 to 90 staff. And each of these services that we provide are ingrained with our MC3 values. Our outpatient mental health clinic is here at our main building, the Jewish Family Services, and we work with all walks of life and do our best to meet them where they're at and help them improve or have improved outcomes. Which is interesting when you have a clinic also in your building where you're operating. So being change agents, is important that we understand that every time we walk through the lobby, we're interacting with or have the potential to interact with clients or their family. That you have to have a bigger focus than just on your individual program or your individual client, because one of the things that's important to keep in mind about being change agents is that your interactions with anyone has an impact on others. And, so if you're having a bad day and your cultural intelligence is turned off and you say something goofy to somebody there, you just impacted not only their day, but how they're going to interact with the person that they're to see, the other change agent. So it's important that you keep all of those things in mind, which we do as you're managing throughout your day and even just moving throughout the building. We also offer social services here through case management programs, or corporate guardianship programs, community programming, comprehensive community services, or CCS program, which is one of our targeted programs for NIATEX, for the NIATEX project, which I'll talk about in a moment. As well as when we talk about being cultural intelligence and being culturally aware and culturally sensitive, and welcoming and understanding the community, we have a social services for Russian speakers and Holocaust survivors program that works with over 200 individuals that are Russian immigrants, but many of them are Holocaust survivors. So we're talking about working with individuals that come with PTSD and other trauma experiences before they even connect with you. And one of the things that we've had to work with by looking at our MC3 values is we wouldn't necessarily think of this, but if you're a Holocaust survivor, one of the things that you would have had to do is present your papers to the German government, to the Nazi government. What is one of the first things we often do at intake with someone? We sit down and fill out papers. So we had to learn. We learned very, very quickly that inadvertently, through typical practice, we were creating undue trauma for some people. So it's things like that, by using our values in some of the NIATEX process that we looked at, where we were able to change some of our practice. So it's less about filling out papers directly with someone and us filling out the papers by collecting the information from them. Is very, very, it's a way of, by utilizing our MC3 values and looking at everything from co-occurring to person-centered care, is really putting yourself in that person's spot. The other things that we deal with is, which is kind of, working with our Russian programming, is that if you ever use Google Translate, don't use it for Russian. It doesn't conjugate verbs. So we've had to, we have lots of folks here that speak 7 different languages, actually, and we rely oftentimes more on our translators than we do on a Google Translate or another package like that. So we continue to provide person-centered, personalized management and social services. We do this for our with our adults, individuals with disabilities, chronic mental health, substance abuse. Again, we work with anyone that we're able to provide support to. So it is definitely a person-centered way of looking at things. Which again, like I've already hit on, is a lot about having open discussion as a change agent within your agency, within your department, within your team, within your unit, and kind of really figuring out ways to be more person-centered. We also run a My Choice Family Care program. My Choice, we've been involved as an MCU since 2000. We have about 650 elderly individuals that we provide services to. Again, it's another opportunity for us to look at our system integration, which I'll talk about in a moment, as we work with those folks. Sorry, okay. Then we also run housing. We have safe and affordable housing out at Deerwood Crossing for senior residents and Bradley Crossing. Both Deerwood Crossing is, let me tell you right here. Deerwood Crossing for senior residents is assisted living. And again, that's another opportunity for us as we look at our Mc3 values. And it was actually one of the first NIATEX programs or projects that I led here at the agency, which I'll talk about here in a moment, was looking at some things that was going on with Deerwood Crossing. And then we also run Bradley Crossing, which is supportive housing. And that's a unique community with low income households that it's really is a community. It's 114 apartments, have over right around 100 children. And it's everything from grandparents, single parent, is individual, you name it. It's a small community there in Brown Deer that we're able to provide support to individuals for. They're in the apartment complex, and we do also provide a social services unit with folks there. So as Pam said that this was one of the most important slides in her deck, this is most definitely one of the most important slides in my deck. One of the ways that we incorporate this is that it's printed often in cubicles. We look at it regularly. It's in my office in a couple of different locations. It is something that we refer back to regularly, doing consultations, during staffings, during whatever it might do, both in interactions between my a supervisor and their staff, between clients and staff as well. But I definitely recommend taking the Mc3 values, and if you like, and put it up so you see it, and head back to it to refresh yourself with it on a regular basis. So Mc3 values and JFS. One of the biggest things that we do here at Jewish Family Services is what we've called cross-program support. It's similar to Milwaukee County's no wrong door, but it is there is no wrong entry at JFS. So you might come in the front door to see your clinician, and in working with your clinician, we might find out that you have an elderly parent that could benefit from My Choice Family Care. Or we might find out for that same family that there is a brother who's dealing with some issues, who's qualified for, might qualify for CCS. So that's something that we would work with in getting individuals involved with, as long as they wanted to. Or we may find out that the individual we're working with could benefit from other services that we have here. So we are pretty adept at making sure that our system integration, our service integration, all of those things are wrapped in together, and that it's a family approach. Within our programs, we talk about that oftentimes we become the surrogate parent for someone. We do that with our corporate guardianship program, with our disabilities case management program, where you really become connected to and providing services for that individual on both in a trauma-informed, person-centered approach. So the other ways that we do it is all of our employees, all of our interns, all of our volunteers, everyone is introduced to the values and philosophies of MC3. We do that during our orientations. We do this during our all-staff meetings. Any opportunity we get, we're talking about our MC3 values and what that means to our clients and to our staff. So it's really is innately part of what we do. Then we regularly revisit these, our values, during those department meetings, team meetings, trainings, talking about what we're going to do for our NIATEX projects. I have had, when we talk about having system-wide impact as change agents, I've had Amy and Janet come talk in my social work classes about MC3 and NIATEX and what that means to be a change agent. We do that with our interns as well, as having them involved, and actually as part of our intern curriculum for in case management, we have it intrinsically involved as part of the program that they go through with our MC3 and learning about the values. So a little bit here about MC3 and NIATEX. We've had a couple of different projects that we've been doing, we've been a part of. We have utilized those projects to build new processes, new practices within the agency. We do a lot of starting with satisfaction surveys, getting that information, going through our charter with NIATEX, and then finding ways to change the practice and track it. We started at Deerwood Crossing with the medication error reduction project 3 years ago or 2 years ago now. We're following that up with the satisfaction survey, and then following that up with more changes in both in training and paperwork and practice. And somebody actually asked me not too long ago, what does medication error reductions have to do with MC3 and values? And I said, well, just about everything. If you are the individual, the resident assistants at Deerwood Crossing, which is our assisted living, giving somebody their medication who is elderly, you may have in your first round of medications 10 different medications and vitamins to give. So one, it's important not to make an error in the medications that you give. But two, it's an opportunity to be welcoming. It's an opportunity to find out how they're doing. It's an opportunity to find out, to utilize trauma-informed care when you're hearing about their day and what's going on and what hasn't been going well or what is. So it really does come back to when I say that everyone here at JFS is a change agent and is responsible for understanding those values. We've also seen it within our comprehensive community services, where this year, this is actually the second year of our satisfaction surveys, and making changes to our paperwork, making changes to how we're connecting with our clients. And then next, not this coming storyboard, but the next one we'll be presenting on the outcomes from the community CCS program we've been doing. We've also seen our the whole idea of NIATEX and MC3 values become part of our quality improvement. So we have built program performance benchmarks. We have built, it's within our strategic planning and working with our board of how we are interacting and where we're looking to go as an agency as we move forward, incorporating MC3 values. It really is an integral part. I'm willing to bet that if you grab one of my 3 kids right now, they probably could click off for you all of our MC3 values. It's that much in part of what we do here at JFS and part of what I do. So a little bit about MC3 in action. the ultimate goal. Our goal is to have change agents working all throughout our service delivery system, continually building their own skill set and helping their agencies to identify ways to increasingly become co-occurring and capable. That sums it up. I don't know of a better way to put it. By having each of you here at the meetings with us and attending other change agent meetings, it's important that you take this back and bring it to your agency and make it so it become, or help it become, more of an integral part of what you do. And so what I would like to do, is being one of the co-chairs for our steering committee, is to kind of bring things back around a little bit, away from JFS and back to MC3. So there are opportunities for you to get involved. So we have a steering committee with co-chairs of John and I. And our mission is the same as MC3 in trying to influence change, positive change, and getting change agents out there throughout the systems. And it's more than just the system that you work in, it's all the systems, kind of like it's already been talked about. Is there a way to get into the education system? Is there a way to get into the healthcare system? And what does that look like? But I just want to very quickly go over a couple of opportunities for you that may be out there if you're interested in. We have an academic committee, which you heard Karen talk about. And the academic committee is all about providing a global, throughout MC3, internship opportunities for interns to become change agents and to take on those values while still at school. And the hope is, while they're doing their internship placement and they're learning about MC3, they're learning about our values, they're learning about NIATEX, that goes back with them to their classrooms and their classes when they're talking with professors and learning more. And it's also an opportunity to set aside or set apart an MC3 internship from others, where, if you are applying for a position at APC, or if you're applying for a position at Jewish Family Services, and you start talking about your MC3 internship, that's a strong indicator that you understand this and hold true to the same values and practices that we do. So we're trying to provide those opportunities for others as they go through their academics. We have our Oars Committee. Pam, feel free to jump in anytime about the Oars Committee here, or anyone else, any of our other members or committee members or chairs that might be out there. The Oars Committee is, we're trying to work on targeting diversity and underrepresented groups. We're trying to get people to come out and become more active and become more active within MC3. Pam, Amy, am I missing anything here?
Well, Oars Committee also has the subcommittee of the Jingle Mingle, and so we've already kind of got some participation in what you guys want to see about that. We're always looking for, again, because we want to broaden the outreach of MC3, ideas on other constituencies, other leaders, other areas where you might see that other systems that we need to touch base with in terms of reaching out to get people on our steering committee. We like our steering committee to be at least a third of people with lived experience in some area, either, substance abuse, maybe physical disability, mental health issues as well. So if you know of anybody that would like to be on the steering committee, again, I showed you many documents that we use to keep us organized. Please feel free to reach out to Amy, myself, Kevin.
And I was just going to add that any of the subcommittees or steering committee that you find interesting, I'm going to put my email in the comments section, and you can always email me and I can get you either more information or even get you to the co-chair of that committee.
Excellent. Thank you. So Amy, you want to keep running going, or is Vicki on the call to talk a little bit about bridge builders?
Bridge builders? Did you want me to talk about bridge
Yes,
builders?
please. Sorry.
Okay. So bridge builders, actually years ago was our cultural intelligence and also our person-centered committee. And the two of them really did combine to create a stigma reduction committee. And the name was given and voted for in a committee years ago, because we're trying to, build these bridges into the community. And so it's been a little bit more challenging in the virtual world. We've been trying to keep busy. We have done different things like stigma reduction movie nights, and we did a really cool event called, you might have remembered or even been to it, Art from the Heart, where different change agents made T-shirts really describing, their experience with MC3 and also their experience with behavioral health. And they really did tell a story with these T-shirts. And it was a really neat art event. But we're trying to create events. The other thing that you might have noticed too is that sometimes there's two different things. Sometimes you'll get on your constant contact, the listserv for change agents, you'll see something that says change agent connection on the bottom. The bridge builder group mans that. And also you might even just get a whole email on something that's important. Just recently, a bridge builder sent one out about vaccination clinics. And so that was something important to go out into the community. And so that's the other thing that Bridge Builders does. So they're always working on trying to find different things that would be interesting for the community to help with stigma reduction.
All right, thank you. Technology Committee.
You want me to stay on here, don't you?
Yeah, just keep going. You're on a roll.
So the Technology Committee has some exciting news, and you'll be able to see it very, very soon. In fact, tomorrow is the day that is the onboarding for a new website. We've gone through the process of getting the budget and signing up and then getting this kind of demonstration thing that we did. But we've decided to go through a website called FlipCause, and it's a little bit more professional, more sparkly. We'll be able to have our resources on the website that should always be available for change agents. Today you've heard things like NIATEX and the academic committee and all those things. We need a website to have all of those things so that you can go into it and pluck the things that you need. That is what is coming. And that's why it's such exciting news, because we've been wanting and waiting for something like that for a long time, and it's coming. And also we do have a Facebook page. If you're not on the Facebook page, I can put that in the comments section too, so you can look for that. And believe it or not, we do have a TikTok too. There's only 1 or 2 videos on there, but we do have an MC3 TikTok as well.
All right. And let's see, here we go. And our last committee is our evaluation committee. And unfortunately, John's not able to be here. But the evaluation committee is looking at, what our initiatives are doing, what can we measure, and how do we know that we're making a positive change, and what impact MC3 is bringing to the systems. Am I close?
Perfect. Yep.
Perfect. All right. So look at this. Like a good professor, I'm going to get you out a few minutes early. All right. So how do I get involved? We've talked about all kinds of different ways to get involved. So if you're interested in becoming more involved, besides being a change agent, but also becoming more involved with some of our subcommittees, please reach out to Amy or any of the chairs of our subcommittees that are out there. We would love to have you and see you more involved.
And then I would like to add something that is not related to this presentation, that I'm going to be plunking the certificate of attendance into the comments section. And if you haven't ever used that before, I heard Pam say that we've had a lot of newbies here today. So if you haven't ever used that before, the way that it works is you go into the link, you answer some questions about today's meeting, and then you follow the next link to the certificate of attendance, and that will make a printable document for you. So I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to step away for a moment. But I guess the one thing I will put out there, does anybody have any questions or comments for APC or JFS?
You know, it's interesting that after all the time we've spent on video chats like this, awkward silence is still awkward silence, whether you're in person or on camera.
I'd just like to say that everything has been very informative to me today, and I'm just glad that I was here to get a piece of it.
Thank you.
I would like to say I can't wait to get back together again in person. It is convenient, and you know, we do get quite a good attendance virtually, but it really is not like being together and breaking up into our small groups and actually working on the values, you know, together in person and sharing that. So I'm really hoping to get back to that experience.
I would like to agree with that. You know, I'm missing being with people, and I know that it's difficult when we can't get together for the big jingle mingle too. You know, the last jingle mingle that we had, we were close to 550 people. So it got big, and it got, you know, a big fest, which is wonderful. We love that. But during this time, we just cannot bring that big of a group together. And by the way, about our Menti Meter, it did not change. The fall is still way in advance. So it looks like fall is our winner.
All right.
Well, I don't know if we have any more questions or comments, but before you all go, I just wanted to thank our presenters today. Y'all did such a wonderful job, and I could see how much work and effort went into these presentations. And so I'm extremely grateful. And so thank you very much. And I know that there are at least a couple of you that are going on vacation right after this. So enjoy your time there. And then and again, thank you. I'm going to mute myself because the dogs.
Okay.
Amy, did you put on the certificate thing?
Yes, I can do it again.
I don't see it.
I just saw in the chat, what's the youngest age of becoming a change agent? Well, let's see. I started my youngest at 11.
I mean, as we talked about before, one of the goals would be to provide anti-stigma information to very young children, to prevent bullying, prevent stigma, to help kids and families access services earlier and welcome them into the system, and so that they feel accepted, and so that they don't need to experience the trauma that some of us have experienced. So don't forget, if you have families that you work with, anybody can come to change agent meetings. We tend to get more adults coming, but because kids are in school all day, but that is a possibility, and we might want to think about doing a change agent meeting in the evening for families and for kids, so that they too can spread the word. Because again, if all of us have the same values and talk the same language and are practicing those values, this will be a healthier world for us all to live in. Some people are saying they can't access the certificate. Sometimes if too many people are trying to access at once, I've noticed it won't go through. So maybe give it some time. Let me see if I can access it.
Okay, I just tried it and it's up and running. It's working. Did anybody else try it and it worked?
I'm trying it right now.
Okay, I just did it and it's going for me, but then of course I created it, so.
Of course, I gave myself an excellent rating. It might be the only one, but I'm trying to skew the results here.
I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.
Yeah, mine went through.